Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. Thanks, Mr. President, for all the things you've done, the battles that you've won, the way you deal with U.S. Steel and our problems by the ton. We thank you so much. Everybody, happy birthday!
Was Marilyn Monroe murdered? On August 5th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe, one of Hollywood's most iconic stars, was found dead at her Los Angeles home. The official cause of death was listed as acute barbiturate overdose, with the coroner labeling it a probable suicide. But almost immediately, rumors of foul play began to spread. Conspiracy theories grew over the decades, suggesting that Monroe's death was not a simple overdose, but instead a well-orchestrated murder. It's not hard to see why. Monroe was not only a glamorous actress, but also someone who had connections to some of the most powerful men in America. John F. Kennedy.
And then it said, P.S. My birthday's next month. But we're grateful to them, to Bobby Darin, and to Miss Carroll, who was going to come, and to Miss Monroe, who left a picture to come all the way east, and I can now retire from politics after having had a happy birthday sung to me in such a sweet...
The President of the United States, Robert Kennedy, the Attorney General. And her own inner circle was intertwined with figures linked to organized crime. The early 1960s were a time of intense political tension. The Cold War was in full swing. The Kennedy administration was clashing with organized crime, and the FBI was on high alert for any threat to national security. And in the midst of all this was Marilyn Monroe, a woman who was loved, admired, and scrutinized by everyone. The question remains, was she killed to keep certain secrets buried? Was she silenced because she knew too much? Or was her death simply a tragic accident? Today, we're going to dive deep into the evidence and the conspiracy theories surrounding her death. We'll talk about her connections to the Kennedys, the involvement of the FBI and CIA, potential ties to the Mafia, and the strange inconsistencies in the official investigation. And at the end of this presentation, I'll give you my final conclusion based on everything we uncover.
Hollywood, is it a happy time for you, or?
Yes, it is. It's a very happy time. I'm happy to be back. As I said, it's my hometown.
Yes.
Well, you're a happy girl now. When you go to London? Yes, I'm much happier though. I'm very pleased.
Is it true that you submitted a list of directors that you would work with? We only know the rumors we hear, you know.
I would rather say that I have director approval, and that is true.
This you think is important?
Yes, it is. Very important to me.
You're wearing a high hat dress.
Theory 1. The Kennedy connection. The most popular theory suggesting that Marilyn Monroe was murdered revolves around her alleged relationships with John F. Kennedy and his brother, Robert Kennedy. Marilyn Monroe famously performed Happy Birthday, Mr. President for JFK in May 1962. This was just 3 months before her death, but that performance was more than just a moment of flirtation. Many believe it symbolized something much deeper, a romantic and political connection that threatened to unravel everything. Based on numerous testimonies from people who were close to Monroe, it's believed she had affairs with both John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. Biographer James Spoto confirmed this, stating that it was clear Marilyn had been intimate with both brothers. Why would this connection lead to her murder? Firstly, Monroe was rumored to have kept a diary, known as the Red Diary, where she documented everything about her affairs, including political secrets allegedly shared by the Kennedys. This diary supposedly contained sensitive information about JFK's plans against Fidel Castro, CIA operations, and other classified details. If Marilyn had threatened to go public with her relationships or reveal these secrets, it could have been catastrophic for the Kennedys. Eunice Murray, Monroe's housekeeper, later admitted during an interview that Robert Kennedy visited Marilyn's home on the night she died. Despite the official narrative placing RFK hundreds of miles away, there are multiple reports suggesting he was in Los Angeles that night, confronting Marilyn about ending their affair. Witnesses claim to have seen Bobby Kennedy at her home, accompanied by Peter Lawford. Lawford himself, Monroe's friend and JFK's brother-in-law, allegedly arranged for certain aspects of the cover-up. Phone records from Marilyn's house were also erased, and there were delays in reporting her death. By the time authorities arrived, crucial evidence had already been tampered with. Based on these claims and the suspicious actions of those around her, it's easy to see why so many believe Marilyn Monroe's death was orchestrated by Robert Kennedy or his associates to protect his political career and his brother's presidency. Another theory suggests that Monroe's death was connected to the CIA or FBI, agencies that were actively monitoring her due to her relationships with the Kennedys and her political associations. During the Cold War, the FBI kept files on numerous celebrities with potential links to communist groups. Marilyn Monroe's marriage to playwright Arthur Miller, who was accused of communist sympathies, put her on their radar. According to declassified FBI files, Marilyn was considered positively leftist by some agents, even though there was no conclusive evidence that she was a Communist Party member. One theory suggests Monroe had access to sensitive government information due to her intimate relationships with JFK and RFK. If Marilyn threatened to expose these secrets, the agencies may have seen her as a security risk. Another claim is that J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, was collecting dirt on the Kennedys and may have used Marilyn's death to blackmail them. Some believe the FBI or CIA orchestrated her murder to silence her and damage the Kennedys' reputation. Furthermore, some reports claim Marilyn's phone was wiretapped, either by the FBI or mob-linked figures working for Jimmy Hoffa. These recordings may have captured sensitive conversations that the authorities wanted erased. Another theory revolves around organized crime. Marilyn Monroe was connected to mob-linked individuals like Frank Sinatra and Sam Giancana. RFK, as Attorney General, was cracking down on organized crime, targeting powerful Mafia figures. The theory suggests the Mafia planned to kill Marilyn as a way to get back at Robert Kennedy, framing him for her death, or using the scandal to gain leverage. Others believe the Mafia was hired by the CIA or FBI to eliminate Monroe as part of a larger cover-up. Conclusion: based on all the evidence we have reviewed, I believe Marilyn Monroe's death was not just a tragic accident or a suicide. it was the result of a much larger conspiracy involving some of the most powerful figures in America at the time. Let's break down the strongest pieces of evidence that suggest her death was murder. Autopsy inconsistencies. According to the autopsy, Monroe's death was caused by acute barbiturate poisoning. But here's where things don't add up. No pill residue was found in her stomach. If she had ingested that many pills, there should have been traces. Instead, the evidence points toward the possibility that the drugs were administered through other means, likely an injection or enema. This crucial discrepancy was brushed aside by authorities. Erased phone records and witness manipulation. The night of her death, several phone calls were made, but those records were erased or went missing. Witnesses changed their statements under pressure or mysteriously disappeared from the investigation altogether. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, gave conflicting statements about the timeline of events. She initially admitted that Robert Kennedy was at Monroe's house the night she died, but later recanted her statement under mysterious circumstances. The Kennedy connection. Marilyn Monroe was deeply involved with both John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. The alleged existence of a red diary containing sensitive information about her relationships and political secrets only adds to the mystery. Multiple testimonies place RFK at Monroe's home on the night she died, despite his official alibi stating he was elsewhere. If Marilyn had threatened to go public with damaging information, the Kennedys would have had every reason to silence her. CIA and FBI involvement. The Cold War era was a time of paranoia and ruthless tactics. Both the FBI and CIA were known for going to extreme lengths to protect national security and their own reputations. Marilyn was being monitored due to her associations with left-wing activists, especially through her marriage to Arthur Miller. Reports of wiretaps and surveillance suggest that her private conversations may have been recorded and potentially used against her. Mafia motives. The Mafia's resentment towards RFK's crackdown on organized crime cannot be ignored. Sam Giancana and other mobsters had every reason to retaliate. Using Marilyn's death as a weapon against the Kennedys would have been a powerful move. The Mafia had the resources and connections to stage her death convincingly. So, what do I think really happened? I believe Marilyn Monroe was murdered. And here's why. The overdose theory simply does not make sense given the lack of pill residue in her stomach. The fact that witnesses changed their testimonies or had their statements suppressed suggests a cover-up. Her connections to the Kennedys, the Mafia, and government agencies provided plenty of motives for her elimination. The suspiciously erased phone records and the inconsistent timelines only deepen the mystery. Marilyn Monroe was not just a beautiful Hollywood star. She was someone who had intimate knowledge of powerful men. And when she threatened to speak out, her life was cut short. Maybe it was Robert Kennedy who orchestrated the cover-up to protect his reputation and his brother's presidency. Maybe it was the Mafia, seeking revenge against RFK's relentless pursuit of organized crime. Or perhaps it was the government itself, fearful that Marilyn would expose state secrets in her quest for attention and recognition.
I explained to you, I was never used to being happy. So that wasn't something I was sort of counting on. Well, I hope we got something here. But please don't make me look like a joke.
The truth has been buried for decades, But the inconsistencies, the secrecy, and the suspicious circumstances surrounding her death cannot be ignored. His is my conclusion. Marilyn Monroe was murdered. The truth was deliberately concealed to protect the reputations and power of those involved. But whether the blame falls on the Kennedys, the Mafia, the FBI, the CIA, or a combination of all of them, we may never know for sure.
I'm not sure whether I should be frightened of you or not.
No, nobody's scared of me.
I don't know. I bet a lot of guys are scared of you, though, because you're such an institution now. Really you are. You're a kind of a national possession. Do you feel that you belong to the nation as a whole?
I don't know quite what you mean by that.
I
live here.
That'll do it very nicely. I heard you were smart, but I didn't know.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Don't let me fool you. I'm not.
You know, you have a reputation as among the great mass of people. I think it's probably the most beautiful blonde in the world, but a kind of a dumb girl because you're a beautiful blonde. And blondes and dumbness seem to go together. I think it all started with maybe with gentlemen prefer blondes.
You know, it's interesting that people associate, if you happen to have blonde hair, you know, naturally or not naturally, however, or if you're not out of shape in some way, you're absolutely dumb. I mean, you're considered dumb. I don't know why that is. I think it's a very limited view.
It isn't true, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what the person, what they look like, what color hair they have, or if they happen not to be out of shape. I mean, my time's to come. Gravity catches up with all of us.
Yes, slowly, but I'm afraid inexorably, if that's the right word. I hear that you're moving to New York City to live. Is this so?
Yes, this will be my home from now on. That is until I retire. And when I retire, I'm going to retire to Brooklyn.
Really? Why Brooklyn?
Oh, that's my favorite place in the world so far that I've seen.
Sure enough.
I haven't traveled much, but I don't think I'll find anything to replace Brooklyn.
You're going to help our rating in Brooklyn about 9 points. Why is it Brooklyn? What happens there with you?
Well, almost everything. I just like walking around. I think the view's better from Brooklyn. You know, you can look back over and see Manhattan.
Yeah, that's the only place you can see Manhattan from. You're
That's
quite
the
right.
best view, but it isn't only the view. It's the people.
What we do know is that Marilyn Monroe's death remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time. And the truth, whatever it is, deserves to be uncovered.
After you get what you want, you don't